Hello, this is Rich, and today I'm going to be doing a tutorial on making your own custom vehicle. This is going to be a basic tutorial on just being able to make a vehicle drivable so you can drive it around. In the future, we're going to be doing a vehicle tutorial on adding mountable guns, animations to certain parts of your vehicle, parts that can break off and be destroyed and be separated from the whole car. As a side note for people who regularly watch my channel, I'm still working on the modeling some weapons here. I'm having trouble myself. I mean, I've gotten it done like once with my axe previously, but getting animations to work is being a little bit tricky for me. I know a lot of people may be able to do this, but for me it's tricky because I had to animate two different objects, and then when I import it into Sandbox for the character editor, the arms mesh and my model, they don't line up properly. Like the axe ends up being in the middle of the guy's arm, and it just causes weird deformation in the character's arm. So it's an issue that I'm working out. And I'm also working on the other things for the tutorial. So those will be released. Just stick with me, guys. So this is just something quick to show you guys about getting a car into, it's a four-wheeled vehicle, a car into Cryengine to get it working. So you guys can start making vehicles for very basic. Okay. So first of all, we're just going to create a simple box that represents the main chassis of the vehicle. So I'm going to go into the Create tab, Geometry, go to Box, just drag out a box. And I'm going to right click on Select and Move, right click on these arrows to bring everything to World 000. I'm also going to go over to the Hierarchy, Effect Pivot Only, because the pivot does need to be in the center of the object. That's important. It needs to be at 000 as well. So once we move the pivot to the center of the object, we have to redo the X, Y, and Z for it 000. The object is, as you can see, below ground plane, but that's fine, doesn't matter. Next, we're going to create a couple of wheels. So go ahead into the, let's see, the cylinder, make a cylinder, just like that. I'm going to go to the modifier tab, and I'm just going to bring down the height segments to 1, and then bring up the sides to, let's say, 30, just so it looks a little bit more round. Once I did that, I'm going to duplicate this 4 times by holding Shift and then axes of my choice, in this case X. I'm going to let go of Shift, let go of left click, and I can choose how many. I want 3. Okay, so I have 4 vehicles. As you can see, these are a little bit too big, so I'm just going to scale these down just a little bit. I'm going to turn on my snap scaling and snap rotation, and bring these down, 20%. And you can see how much percent I'm bringing it down by the bottom here. It shows 80. So 20%. There we go. Now that I've done this, these objects themselves need to have the pivot in the center. This is because when you import your vehicle into Cryengine, it actually, for rotation of the wheels and movement of the wheels, and for movement of the chassis and every moving part, Cryengine uses each object's pivot location to animate the parts, and for using physics with them. So if you have the pivots in the wrong place, you can get some weird physical reactions with them. So you've got to make sure that each object that you want that's going to be movable, first of all, does need to be a separate object if it's a movable part. Secondly, the pivot needs to be in an appropriate place. You can set these anywhere you want, but obviously for a wheel you want it right dead in the center so that it rotates around the middle of the axes, creating a nice rolling effect. Otherwise, let me just show you what I'm talking about. Hold on here, I gotta So I'm going to go to Effect. I'm going to go to the Hierarchy tab, Effect Pivot Only, Center to Object. I've unclicked that after I was done and clicked Effect Pivot Only. So now if I go into the rotation, you're going to see here, if I rotate around the Z-axis, you're going to see that the model rotates perfectly. It stays exactly where it is, and that's how Cryengine will use it. So it rotated around the axes, causing the wheel to turn in place. So let's say, for instance, let's go to Effect Pivot Only, and go to the Move tool, Move widget, and bring this pivot over here. This is pretty basic 3D Studio Max stuff, but just in case you're wondering. So let's say if your pivot is in the wrong place, this is what happens. So when Cryengine tries to roll it, move it, rotate it, it ends up doing this. And obviously you don't want a wheel doing this. It rotates it around the pivot. So you don't want your wheels going like, crazy like this. So you're going to make sure that each of your pivots in the appropriate position. So just go to Effect Pivot Only and make sure you click Center to Object. Okay, so now we got to position these. I'm just going to make sure these pivots are all okay. So I'm going to select every object, effect Pivot Only, and Center to Object, just to make sure. See, some of them weren't. Okay, so that's going to go here. This is going to go here. Just so you guys know how long this is going to be, I anticipate this being like an hour tutorial, maybe a little bit more. So let's keep going here. These things do need a special naming convention, but I have, through experience, learned that you can pretty much use whatever name you want and not the default names. If you do that, then you're going to have to, in the XML script for the vehicle, you're going to have to change the default names that naming conventions that they use to something that you used. So let's say if I have this as the naming convention for the vehicles is for the wheel, it's wheel_1, wheel_2. And let's say if you use like wheel1 without an underscore, that's fine. But in the scripts, you're going to have to change the name to wheel1 for the reference instead of keeping it at wheel_1 because they won't recognize it. And, throughout the whole process, change all your naming conventions. So you can use whatever names you want, but you remember it won't work unless you change the scripts to recognize those names. And we're going to do that. We're going to change the custom, give it a custom name, and then show you how to change it in script so that you know how to use your own names if you want. So what we're going to do, I got to just place these into position. So 90 degrees, obviously. Currently, I do just know how to make four-wheeled vehicles, but in the future, I do plan on learning myself how to make other vehicles, and obviously, I'm going to upload a tutorial for those when I figure that out. So let's bring it like that. Let's go to the top view so I can get nice alignment here. You may be asking yourself, well, does it matter if these are too close? Like when the wheel tries to turn, will it cause collision against the vehicle and not work? Do I need to have some space in between? The answer is I don't know. I've tried, going in close like this and turning still seemed to work. So don't take my word on it, but I don't believe that you need to have. I don't believe you need to have spacing like that. I don't think the vehicle objects collide with themselves. I could be wrong, but whoops. I'm gonna just go select these two and faster so I can get a better alignment here by holding shift, holding control to select multiple objects and shift in an axis, left clicking to duplicate. I just want one copy. Okay, for the wheels, we're gonna name these accordingly. I'm going to name it wheel, W-H-E-E-L, wheel 1. wheel 2, wheel 3, and wheel 4. Like I said, the actual naming convention for a four-wheeled vehicle like this is actually wheel underscore 4, wheel underscore 3, wheel underscore 2, wheel underscore 1, but I want to show you, if you want to have custom names, that you can change these in script later on. Okay, so now that we have that, let's go to perspective view. That's a basic vehicle here. I'm going to go ahead to the left view, so I can just take these and I'm going to click and drag to select the front, the side 2, and the other side, so I can select all 4 at once, and just bring these down so that the bottom of the main chassis is in the middle of these wheels, just like that. Okay, so I'm not sure if this is needed, but just so I don't look like a friggin' idiot, I did see in the documentation that these wheels do need to have in the objects properties UDP, otherwise known as, wheel under them. So the wheels do need to have wheel. So let's go and select each of the 4 wheels. Right click, go to object properties. In the object properties, go ahead and set wheel, W-H-E-E-L. Click OK. So now all of these properties should have wheel in them. Let's check. Okay, that one does. And that one does. So yeah, they all do. Now for linking. First of all, let's just convert these to an editable poly, because right now these are just standard primitives. They're just boxes. If I go to the modifier tab, you can see that it's a box. It's not a editable poly. So let's go everything, right click, convert to editable poly. Second thing we're going to want to do before we start linking, because we're going to reset xforms, and you don't want to reset the xforms while objects are linked, because it won't reset properly. So before we start linking these objects, for hierarchy, so let's go to the utilities panel. While all of these are selected, reset xforms, and let's hit reset selected. These are going to add a reset xforms modifier in each of these objects. And a cool fast way, I think I mentioned this before, but a cool fast way, instead of clicking on each object and collapsing that modifier, you can go right into the utilities panel, right where reset xforms is located, and you're going to see collapse. And then you're going to want to make sure collapse, mesh, multiple objects are selected, and you're going to want to click on collapse selected. Now if I go into the object properties, like this one, doesn't have a reset xforms, doesn't have a reset, doesn't have a reset, doesn't have a reset, doesn't have a reset, and you can also see that these are editable meshes. That's fine. Actually, I believe that Cryengine uses editable meshes a lot. I think that's more compatible. You can use either editable poly or editable meshes, but I think editable meshes are actually a little bit better. I don't know. I've just seen this somewhere. Now that we've done that, let's go ahead into linking. So you're going to want to go into the graph editor, new schematic view. Let's go ahead and name this. This does need to have a name. Again, special naming convention is whole, but we don't really need to add that because, again, we can change it. So let's go ahead and type body. I'll make sure it's just lowercase so I don't mess it up in script. Forget that I capitalize it. Body. Okay, so let's go ahead into the graph editors. Save schematic view because I've already created a schematic view. So save schematic view 1. The body mesh is going to be the parent of everything. The main chassis, the main body of the mesh is going to be the parent of every single object in here. That's just a basic rule of thumb for making vehicles. You do get into situations when you get a little bit more advanced, when you make doors and then parts that go on the doors and stuff like that. So in that case, you would basically, if a part is a part of a door but it's a separate object, you take that object and then parent it to the door, and then that door would be parented to the body. So basically everything is parented to the body, but not directly. So, but because we have these wheels and it's very basic, wheels in the body, we're just going to take these wheels and parent them. So we're going to go and make sure we're in the hierarchy mode here. We're going to go into the link mode. We're going to select all these wheels, and we're going to click and drag and let go onto the body. Make sure we exit linking mode by going into select mode. So we have the body here. Let's just move these around. Order is not important. You can put wheel 1, wheel 4, wheel 3. It doesn't really matter, but I like to keep my things organized. So wheel 1, wheel 2, wheel 3, and wheel 4. Everything is linked properly. Now we do need to create a dummy helper, and what that's going to end up doing is a dummy export helper is it's going to allow us to export our object by just our entire scene by just exporting that simple dummy, because everything's going to be parented to it, so you don't have to export all the objects individually. So go ahead into the create tab, make sure you're in the helpers tab, and go ahead and create a dummy. Size does not matter in this case. You know, someone may tell you that it does in other situations, but in 3D Studio Max it doesn't matter for the size of the dummy. Okay, so now that we've created that, make sure that the pivot is in the center of the dummy objects, and it should be that way by default. So go ahead and right click on the move widget, and just make sure you right click on all of these, because it does need to be at 0, 0, 0 as well. Now that we've created that, let's go ahead and do graph editors, save schematic view, and for the dummy helper, the name does not matter at all, but it will be the name of your exported objects. So let's go over here, make sure that dummy selected, and just call it like my car. That's going to be the name of your .cgf. I think it's CGA actually, CGA. Yeah, but that's going to be the name of that. So go ahead and take the dummy, my car. This is your export helper, and you're going to want to link the body, the parent of everything else, to the my car. That way when you export, the my car is one object. It's going to export everything that's a child of it. Okay, what else is left to do? I did read, the reason why I created this tutorial is because I was reading on some forums that, you know, this guy wanted to, I don't know if it's a guy or a girl, but this guy wanted to have, had an issue with when he created a vehicle, because something, you know, his guy was on the side of the vehicle, like, you'd get in the vehicle and his guy was, let's say, hanging off the side. He wasn't properly placed, and I'm going to show you how to do that. It's just a simple dummy helper that lets the engine know where to place that guy, what position. And if your vehicle is too small, even if you do place him, you might see his head sticking out because he doesn't fit. One way you can do that, if you're not able to look through the vehicle, you can just, in script, not in the vehicle script, but, you know, through FlowGraph or whatever, that when he's in a vehicle, just hide him. That way you never see the guy. But that obviously wouldn't work if you want, you know, your feature is that you want to be able to see inside the car and stuff. So you got to make sure that your car is facing the positive Y direction. So basically I modeled it like this. Positive Y is this direction here, which would be in the front. So this would be the front of the vehicle, this would be the back. So let's go ahead and create that helper. I've never done this before, but I do know that's what the documentation does tell you, to create a helper. And I think you just reference it in script. So can't guarantee we can get that part going, but that's how documentation says. So it's a first for me. So let's go ahead into the create tab. Let's go ahead and create a dummy. Again, there we go. And the position of dummies, in, like, say if you make a weapons and you use attachments for, you know, dummies as attachments to let, you know, more in the character where pieces are supposed to be attached to, the location is hard to see. So if you make an object that is, you know, a dummy that's really big, you might be wondering, well, how does it know where to put it if it's, if it's a vast object? Where does it pick a place in that volume of a square? Well, actually, the actual position is the pivot. So no matter how big or small this dummy helper is, it's actually the pivot that it places. That's the position. It gets the position of the pivot, and that's where it attaches things. So you can have one that's extremely huge and put it in here, and it would still just find the pivot. So now that we've done that, we're going to name this something special. Give it a name. It does need a special naming convention, I'm sure, but again, we can just name it, let's say, player. Actually, no, let's just put sit underscore position. I don't know if this is the naming convention it needs, but we're going to change that in script. Sit position. And we're going to take this, and we are going to make sure that it's in the appropriate place. Let's see. We're just looking at the pivot, not the object. Ignore the boundaries of this cube, and just get that pivot in a nice, good place. Okay, so also, you may be wondering what part of the player does it, what part of the player does it put at the pivot? It's going to be the root bone of the character. So in that case, it'd be the hips, the hips, the middle of the hips where the two hips meet together, that root bone. So what it does is it puts that root bone where that pivot is. So his head would be like right around here or something like that. So that's what it does there. Okay, that's a good position. Just to show you that you can move shit around. And you move that player around depending on your pivot. So there we go on that. Because I've never done this before, the sit position, I'm going to go to save schematic views, and I don't know where this what the sit position is supposed to be parented to. It can't, it has to be parented to something, otherwise it won't be exported, because it's not part of this hierarchy when I export my car, so it won't be exported. So I'm going to assume that it's parented to the main body just like everything else. So when the body moves, when the main chassis moves around the world, this position will move relative to that, so it'll always be in the same position of the body. That's what it does. That's what this parenting really does. It makes sure that, so when the body moves and these wheels are parented to it, these wheels will always be in the same place no matter where the body is. So if I rotate this body in game, like driving it, and I turn 90 degrees, these wheels will be in the same position because they're linked to the body. So it basically takes on the transformation and transformation, maybe rotation of the parent object. So that's what that does. So the sit position will basically stay exactly where it is no matter where the body is. So what we're going to do is we're going to close out, and we're going to assign some materials. Now you're going to need one sub-material, multi-sub-object material. So in here, select one of the defaults, O1 default. Change the standard to a multi-sub-object. Go ahead and discard anything. Or you can keep if you, for some reason, have some materials already there. We're going to set an ID. We're not going to be creating collision proxies. We're going to just use the base messenger proxy. Typically, you do want to create collision proxies. It's just really time consuming. And I have a fast system, and I'm not really going to be using this. So we're going to go to set number. We're going to want two submaterials. And the reason why we want two is one submaterial is going to be for the body, and the other submaterial is going to be for the wheels. So for number one, we're going to make this a standard material, and double click, and we're going to want to set this to a Crytek shader, physicalize default, because we're not going to be using a collision proxy. Typically you do. But this time we're just going to click physicalize default to use the object as its own collision proxy. And we're just going to set this color here, diffuse, to like set to like a black or a grayish black, something like that. Actually, no, let's set this to a shit. Whatever, 129, 129, 129, like a gray. We should have left it as the way it was. And now that we've done that, make sure you name the material appropriately so that the material is loaded onto the appropriate object automatically. Otherwise, you're going to have to assign the material to the object, because this one is for the base, the body. We're going to name this exactly what the body is named. This is named body. So we're going to go ahead and name this body. So this is auto-loaded onto the material, onto the object. So this material is auto-loaded onto the object. Okay, we're going to go back up to the parent material, and we're going to go into the second one. Make sure it's a standard. From standard, you're going to want to name this, and these are wheels. So just name these wheel, W-H-E-E-L, and make sure that's a Crytek, and just leave use a default as well. Physicalized default, you want to check. You don't need to change the color here. Make sure Show Shaded Material and Viewport is enabled. That way you can actually, in 3D Studio Max, you can debug if your materials are actually on the right ID before you export. Otherwise, you're going to have to re-import into 3D Studio Max, change your IDs, and then re-export. So just make sure you have Show Shaded Material in Viewport. That way you know if you've assigned the right materials, because it'll show right in the engine. And we're going to do that. Forgot to do it with the other one, but go back to the body and make sure you enable that as well. And this actually, let's go ahead and go to the graph editor, save schematic view, and this is the name of our export. This is the name of our CGF, or CGA, whatever, I can't remember. I think it's CGA. This right here, because we're exporting this, is going to be the name. So your actual parent material, the highest you can go, which is, you can see all the sub-objects. That's how you know you're at the highest possible point. So you have the parent. And that name needs to be the exact same name as your CGF or CGA, which is my car. Capitalization is important, so make sure it's my car. That way, again, this material can be auto-loaded onto the object, so you don't have to assign it into the material editor. So now that says my car, that's fine. Okay, so body is ID 1. That means that this body needs to have the material ID set to 1 to take on this material. And then the wheels need to have the ID of 2 to take on that material we described here, or defined here. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we've selected the object. Just go into element mode. We can select the entire thing. And in its properties, under the modifier tab, in its properties, you can see material set ID. So we're going to set this ID to 2 because it is a wheel. You're going to, after we do that, first of all, it did assign it, but in the future, because it is on there, in the future, just select every single object in your scene and just go ahead and assign material to selection. Make sure you're at the parent material. Again, you'll see all the sub-materials. That's how you know you're the parent. And just go ahead and assign it. We're going to go back into body and change the diffuse of the body to like a reddish color, just so we can see the difference in the engine. Sorry, not engine, but the 3D Studio Max. As you can see, we set this to 1, and if you remember correctly, that the wheel, we had the diffuse of gray, so we know that that's using the right material. So now we're going to go ahead, select this object. We're going to go into the element, just click once to select the entire thing, and set ID to 2. And it was red, but as you see now it's gray, so we know that it's using the right material. Again, this is just debugging purposes, so you don't have to redo the same thing over and over by re-importing, exporting to make sure you get the right materials ID assigned. So again, here we're going to go into this here, select this and set ID to 2, because again, ID of 2 is this, the wheel. Click here, element mode, re-click it, Set its ID to 2. There we go. If you look here, you can see that this side is gray on this object and this side is red, or pinkish I should say, or peach. That's because this polygon here is using a different ID. So we're going to fix that by just exiting element mode. Because when we want to select a different object, you have to exit out of these sub-object modes to select another object. So we're going to select this here, and we're going to go ahead. This is ID 1, which is the body. And then we're going to go into the element mode. Click on that and set this ID to 1. There you go, now the whole object. So now you know all your objects using the right material. Okay, now it's export time. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Graph Editors, save schematic view, and we're going to select my car. Then I'm going to go into the Export, Cryengine 3 Exporter, which is in the Utilities tab, by the way. Add selected, and you're going to want to make sure export file per node is off. Merge all nodes is off as well. Everything else can be default, but these do need to be off for the vehicle exporting. And you're going to want to, first of all, go to File, Save As, save your object, save your scene, max file, where you're going to be exporting your object. And this is going to be in, first of all, let's just go to the default. My desktop, current Cryengine, which is my build, bin32, bin64 code editor. So go into game, and you're going to want to use the default locations for this, and that's in game, objects, vehicles. You could use your specific folder, but then you'd have to modify the script to tell it where to find it. So it's just easier just to use the default location. You know what? Apparently I've already done this for my own custom location. So yeah, let's do that. Choose your own location, but it has to be in the game, within the game folder structure. And you can choose any default, and I'll just show you how to add that location. So go ahead. I'm going to name this my car. Seems logical since that's what my CGA is going to be called. And I'm going to go ahead and click Save. Now that I've done that, I'm going to click Custom File Name. Cancel. Make sure that you have CGA, Animated Geometry, CGA, Custom File Name. Both these nodes here are unchecked. Go ahead and click this. It's going to allow you to choose a custom file name. And it's not CGF. It's going to be CGA, so go ahead and delete that. And because it's CGA, I'll just add that extension at the end. So go ahead and export this into the vehicles. It's the same place that you exported your max file. Now that that's done, go ahead and click Export Nodes. There you go. It just exported everything it needs to. Now that that's all ready, let's go ahead and open the material editor to export your material, because it does need to be open. Make sure you've whatever this is, I don't know what these are called, slots, I think a material slot. So make sure your material slot is selected by left clicking, and you're in the parent. You have to be in the parent tab, which again, submaterials. If you can see those, then you can know that you're in the parent tab. Go ahead and click from max to create material. Hey, sweetheart, can you go get me a drink? Thanks, hon. Say what? Yeah, pink lemonade would be good. Go ahead, log in. Again, this is just going to open up the material editor. It's not going to open up the entire full-fledged sandbox Cryengine. It's just going to open up material editor. Once it opens up, you're going to have to click create material again, and you're going to save the material the exact same place you exported your vehicle. And I exported mine in the game. Well, let's go back to the let's go back to the beginning section. Make sure you're in your build here, in game, and I put my vehicle in my files, objects, vehicles, And you need to do that again for auto loading features. That way it auto loads the material onto the car or your object. So same directory as where your CGA is or CGF, and go ahead and name it exactly the same as your object, which mine was my. And if it's in the same directory, if you just start typing, it'll give you a little drop down box because it knows that you saved something like that name in the same directory before. So it doesn't matter what you choose. And just delete the extension because it's going to be an MTL. You'll add that MTL at the end. So go ahead and save. And it's going to highlight the material in yellow. And you can see body and wheel as two sub-materials. In the body, we're going to just load a gray map, gray texture. That way it'll take on the diffuse that we told it to. In 3D Studio Max. Right now there's currently, and Cryengine does not currently offer using the color information that you choose from your textures. So the closest way to emulate this is to use a gray texture. So that's located in the game directory. Again, bin 32, bin 64, game, textures, defaults, gray. It's called gray.dds, so let's find fg gray.dds. There we go, as you can see. Now it turns into the color that we chose. And for the wheel, we're going to do the exact same thing. Instead of searching again for that material, since we've already assigned the gray here, let's just double click in the diffuse slot to highlight everything, copy it, bring it into the wheel, and just paste it. There we go. Surface type, you're not going to be able to select your surface type just because Cryengine resources aren't fully loaded. It's just a material editor, so all that's not available to you. So you just assign that when you're in your game or when you're in Cryengine. Make sure you select the parent material, which is denoted by, my car. You know that's what you saved it as. And there's three little circles. This means it's the parent material. It's a sub-object and it's a parent. These white circles means that it's a child or a sub-object. It's a child. So make sure you select the main parent material and go ahead and save a couple times. All right, now you can exit. I'm just going to resave my file. And I'm going to just keep it open while I open up Cryengine. I'm going to show you what happens when you don't have an XML script with the vehicle. Basically, it will be just loaded as a regular old object. It won't work, you can't get in it, you can't do anything because it doesn't know it's a vehicle yet. And you have to add it as a, you can't go into entities, vehicles, and add it as that. You have to go into geometry, entity, or brush, or something like that to add it. I'll go File, Open, Grade Level. Go into this area. Better find a good area for this. Nice, okay, here we go. Nice flat spot. Thank you, sweetheart. Oh, that's good. Okay, we're going to go into the Entities tab to show you that it's not going to be here as a vehicle. Let's go into the vehicle. And we have vehicle. And test car is one I created before, which is that little, which is the same deal that I'm showing you how to create now. Okay, so you don't see my car because this is where when you add the XML script, it'll be able to add it as an entity of a vehicle. So we're going to go to geometry entity, find it, my objects, files, vehicles, my car. Go ahead and drag that right in here. It's super, super bright. Okay, so what we're going to do, just going to the material editor. I'm not going to assign the material because if you've noticed, I stressed that naming things the right way gets your object in there without having to assign the material. So watch carefully. You're not going to see me use tricks by assigning it. I'm going to go to pick material from objects, because some people did have problems with importing their object and not having that material on there. So I'm just picking the material. I'm just going to highlight it here. Drag this over. It's going to highlight it here, super bright. So I'm going to bring down the diffuse color, just the color of it, and you're going to see it update in real time over there. So bring it down a little bit. Wheel. Bring this down. Still a little bit too bright. Bring that down there. There you go. As you can see, naming things appropriately does get your object to automatically load the materials. I just had to lower the diffuse because the sun was just too bright. Now that we've done that, let's go ahead and assign a surface type to the body. And I'm just going to have this as a metal. If you want to know how to create your own your own material types, you can view my tutorial with procedural destruction. In that, it goes through how to create your own material type, surface type, I should say. So choose the metal, then for the wheel, rubber. I think they have rubber. Yeah, they do, rubber. So I'm going to select my car, which is the parent, and save it. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to go ahead. Tools, reload scripts. I'm going to jump right in game and try to go into the vehicle by pushing F. And it's tiny, I know. And nada. That's because it's just a regular geometry entity. Because it's a regular geometry entity. And nothing happens. So let's go ahead and get to the exciting part, making scripts. So first of all, I do want to make this object a lot bigger. So while we're in here, let's go back in the Cryengine actually. So let's visualize here for a second. Let me just jump in. This needs to be approximately 3 times bigger, I believe, 3.5 times. So let's just select our different objects. Let's select everything. And go into the scale, uniformly scale, and just bring everything up. As you can see here, I have the just like the scaling, snapping, so we know exactly how much we're scaling by. So 3 times bigger would be, default is 100%, so let's go to all the way up to 293. There we go, now it's 3 times bigger. We gotta still make sure everything is at 0, 0, 0, so select our main object. Right click here, make sure it's 0, 0, 0. Everything is at 0, 0, 0 now. That's fine and dandy. Now that we've done this, let's go to my car and just re-export. Now let's go back into Cryengine, click on it, delete it, and then Control Z to go back. Huh. interesting. Geometry entity, my car. Okay. I think the issue here is I forgot to reset xforms. Graph editors, save schematic view. Just go ahead and unlink everything by selecting everything, clicking unlink. Highlight everything. Reset xforms. Reset selected. Go to collapse, mesh, multiple objects, collapse. Hierarchy tab, reset transform, reset scale. After we've done that, graph editors, save schematic view, and everything's in the same order, so you can basically easily replicate what you did earlier. So body to my car, and all of these end up being to the body. Now that that's done, Cryengine exporter. Let's go ahead and select my car, clear list, re-add it, and just export again. Go back to Cryengine, geometry entity, my car. Let's just reload it. Boop, my car. And there we go. So, just jump in game. That looks fine. That looks fine. Okay, so let's go ahead and add the scripts for it. Okay. I'm opening up Notepad++, like I recommended in some of my tutorials. I highly recommend that you do it as well. Very simple and easy. So file, open. We're going to open up something for the vehicles, and this is located in, let's go to the current build here, bin32, bin64 code. Let's go into the game, scripts, entities, and where are you? Vehicles. Inside vehicles, go into implementations, XML, and we're going to take the HMMWV, I think it's a Humvee, as just to expand off of, so we have the basic functionality. So let's just open up the Humvee file. Now that we've done that, I'm going to go to language, XML, not really important, but I just like to do that because this is an XML file. And this is where all the vehicle script is located. There's a lot of stuff here because there's a lot of customization that you can perform, and this is not even close to the stuff that you can actually do. I mean, Crytek did an amazing job on the vehicles. I mean, there's so much stuff that you can do. It's pretty much unlimited. It's amazing. I congratulate them. Vehicle name, HMMWV. This needs to be the same name as your XML file. Currently, oh, my bad. Let's go to File, New. And as you can see, this is new. This is going to be a new XML. So I'm going to go to Language, XML. So we need to name this whatever we want. I'm going to name this My Car because it just seems logical since that's what our model is called. So let's go ahead and save it as. We're going to save this, again, in the XML scripts along with everything else. And I believe you remember where that was. That was in the game, scripts, entities. Scroll down, vehicles, implementations, XML, right in here. Because I chose XML as a language, it automatically knows I'm going to save it as an XML. So let's go ahead. If not, if you use Notepad, which you can use, make sure you put make sure that the save as type is all files, and make sure you name it and then put .xml to save it as an XML. So I'm going to name this My Car. And it's an XML, so I'm going to go ahead and save it. My Car XML. So then I'm going to take the HMMV, which is a Humvee. I'm just going to push Control A to select every single thing. Right click. I'm going to copy it, bring it into My Car, and I'm going to paste. This is so we can have the basic functionality I personally use it for two reasons. One, basic functionality. Two, actually three. Two, because I really don't know how to. I'm not a programmer, guys. I really don't know. I mean, I would totally mess up on where I put these little symbols and where to indent. So I mean, I basically take the format of that. That's why I do that. And the third reason is because I don't really know all the parameters. So looking at these, I can be able to, see what some of the things I can do are. So now that we've done that, we can just close out the Humvee because we don't need that anymore. We have all the information here. Vehicle name equals, and this needs to be the same name as your XML. Capitalization, again, is important. So my car. First of all, we're going to go to search, and we're going to find. And what we're going to find is HMMWV. We're going to find that. We're going to go to replace. We're going to replace it with my car. We're going to search the entire document and replace any instances of HMMV to my car. This is so that we can basically substitute our information with their information, but keeping the same format, so making sure everything works fine. So after I've done that, I'm going to go replace all. 8 occurrences were replaced. Good. So now everything where HMV was there, it replaces it. Secondly, this is right now we're gonna be, what we're doing is we're just taking out the naming conventions and switching them to ours, which is what I was telling you about. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna search again. We're gonna find, make sure we're gonna replace, and we're gonna find hull. I'm just going to find hull. As you can see here, component name is hull. That's a default naming convention for your main chassis. So what we're going to do is we're going to replace hull with, what did we name it? We named it body. So if you named it anything else like chassis, you'd replace hull with chassis. So it's basically, this is the naming convention it's using, and you're just going to replace it with you put. So the script's not going to look for hull, it's going to look for body. So that's what naming convention I was telling you about that you can change. So I'm going to replace hull with body, and we're just going to replace all. 26 were occupied. Okay, now we're going to find wheel, W-H-E-E-L, underscore 1, because again, it was the underscore, and we're just going to replace it with W-H-E-E-L, wheel 1, with what we named ours. And we're just going to replace all. Wheel 2, this is how you basically change naming conventions in the vehicle scripts. Wheel 2 to what we called ours. Wheel 2. Replace all, it's going to find 2. We're going to take wheel underscore 3, replace it with wheel 3. We're going to replace all. Okay, 2 it found, 2 it replaced. Last one, wheel 4 with wheel 4, and we're going to replace all. There's one more thing, which is the sit helper. I don't know what that's called, so we're going to look for that right now, so we can change that up with what we called ours. So let's just scroll down here and find where it's referencing your sit position. Entity front left. Nope. Wheel 1, see? Component name, wheel 1, wheel 2, this is where it changed it from. Headlight left, headlight, door left front, class animated drawing, nope. These are all parts. Wheel 2. We're going to be changing this later on. Oh, actually, crap. It's fine, we'll change that. Let's see, mass box, headlight, helpers. Nope, not located here. Found it. Seats. Under seats. you saw here. Seat name driver. Sit helper is passenger 01 seat position. So what we're going to do is we're going to highlight this, go to search, find, replace, and I can't remember what we named ours, so let's go to sit position, sit underscore position. Capitalization is important. So we're going to place that with sit underscore position. Make sure it's spelled exactly the same. Sit passenger 01 underscore seat position, sit underscore position, replace all. It just found one. And you can enter position, you can change that. You can put a helper that helps you know where to enter for the driver. Okay, so we found that. So all of our naming conventions are done. I'm just scrolling up to the top of the page. Next thing we need to do, because we're basically just extending the functionality of the Humvee. Like I said, later tutorials is going to be a little bit more advanced. As I learn, you learn type of deal. So let's go down, and what we're looking for now is that it's looking for the Humvee file. That's what it's looking for. It's looking for where to load this object. Where's the object? Where's the CGA? Where's the CGF? So we're going to change it to let it know. We don't want to use the Humvee because that's what we extended it from originally, the Humvee. So let's go find a position, and this is located in scroll down right here. Parts, part name, animated body. Right here. Animated file name, CGA. When we search for the Humvee and place it with CGA, the animated file name actually got messed up by this. First of all, we don't have a damaged version of the vehicle, and this is where you'd put the model for the damaged vehicle. We don't have that, so that's, even if this doesn't even exist, this path here, it's fine. You can leave that, whatever, but we do want to change the animated file name, and this is where you would set where you exported the object, so you don't have to have it in the default directory of objects, vehicles, my car. I put mine, let's see, mine's game, my files, objects, vehicles, and now that I'm in the directory, I'm just going to click once up here, and it's going to, in the empty space, it's going to allow me to select these, and that directory is looking for, it already has game in there, so you just need to add everything after the game directory, which is my files, object, vehicles. So go ahead and copy, minimize, and see it says file objects. This is the folder that's inside of game, so obviously it already knows where game is, so you just have to put the path wherever game is. And it looks like these are forward slashes, so go ahead and use forward slashes in yours. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to paste my files, objects, vehicles, and then inside vehicles there was a my car CGA. Don't believe me? Well, let's look. Vehicles, mycar.cga. So now it knows where to find that file. So let's just take these and convert them into forward slashes. I don't know the difference between forward slashes and backslashes, but it's important. So there we go. Now it knows where to find our object. And here we go. That should be everything that we actually need to do to get our vehicle drivable. There may be a couple errors and stuff. We can debug those. But just want to go over quickly. These right here, they added a note, Crytek, non-asset helpers. Asset helpers, you can imagine, is things that you actually made a dummy for in 3D Studio Max. You actually made a dummy, and that's what you're going to use as a helper. Non-asset helpers are something that you actually create, I think, on the fly. You create a helper on the fly. So you're basically creating a helper name, exhaust position, and then the position is in world coordinates. Where do you want this helper to, where do you want the helper name exhaust position that you created to be located? And you want -1, X, -1 in the y, and +5 in the z. This is the location that it puts that helper. Direction is where the object is facing, where it's looking. This is where, you know, the forward direction. Basically, this is the forward direction. There. And part body, what that means that it wants to have this exhaust position associated with the body, which is our main chassis. It wants that part associated with the body. And you can see exhaust position that they created. They placed it at a certain position and which way it's facing, and they have it associated with the body. Then through script, they basically have a particle effect playing at what position? Well, at a position we defined in the name of exhaust helper. So now the particle effect knows where to put, you know, smoke coming out of the back as exhaust, because we, you know, on the fly made a helper called exhaust position. We told it what position to play it at, what the way it's directing, and then you can use that, you know, to play a particle effect there or whatever, or a headlight if you want. Like here, headlight left. Where do you want to put the headlight left helper? And then it's somewhere else in script. I'm not sure if it's in this XML, which probably is. It references this headlight left helper and what to do with it, because it already knows its position and direction. So that's basically what these are. These are, you know, in between helpers and helpers, you can create your own helpers and, you know, on the fly without having to do it in here, without having to do it on the fly. But I mean, on the fly helpers is pretty damn cool, I guess. These could not be on the fly. I don't know. I'm assuming they are because they're not pre-created, but they could also be something set in C++ that are defined, that you have to, you know, in order to really make it work, you can't just name it here. You'd have to name it in C++, then use it in here, you know? So I really don't know, but it looks like on the fly, which is pretty cool. Okay, that should be everything that we need. So let's go ahead and let's save my car and just exit and go into 3D Studio Max. Go in the Cryengine. Go ahead, delete this. Tools, reload scripts. Let's go into Entity, just reload, button there. Vehicles. You're not able to see it. This is due to the possibility you need to restart the editor. So let me just save my changes by closing out. I'll save this. I keep 3D Studio Max open when I'm, you know, working on an asset and importing it and getting it all set up. I leave it open to that whole process. That way, if I need to change anything, I can just change it without having to wait like 30 seconds for it to open and opening up a file. So just leave it open. That's my pipeline, you know. So let's just reopen that. I can't remember straight away, but there might be a possibility you might have to add a Lua script for the vehicle as well, but I'm not quite exactly sure. I can't remember. It's been a while since I made that vehicle. So let's go ahead into the entity. Let's go into vehicles, and you can see my car. Let's go ahead and drag my car. You can see that it's right there. Because vehicles are AI objects, you might want to reload your scripts and generate all AI. And since I've done that, I'm just going to also generate surface texture. It seems to be running a little bit slow, and I find after I generate a surface texture, it just picks up the speed a little bit. Yeah, running a lot better. So let me just Control G, pop right in. Well, first of all, let's pick this object up because we did add it as an XML, and a vehicle, it should be physicalized. So let me just drag this up here and then click this little button here called Simulate Physics. And what that does is, this is actually a pretty cool feature. If you didn't know already, simulate physics is, if you're placing an object, let's say if I place an object like right here on a hill, and it's like, wow, it's hard to really get it placed exactly, because you'd have to go in here and you'd have to rotate it to get it perfect, and you still might be spaces. If you have a physicalized object, you can go ahead and make sure it's selected, go to simulate physics on selected objects, and oof, that's not really what I wanted. Let's go ahead and click that and go ahead and simulate. And seems like there's some weight issues. I had this with my other car actually. I can't remember how I fixed it, but we will. So let's just bring this over just a little bit and go ahead and simulate. Oh, no. Fucking A. Hold on. I gotta get this for you. Let me rotate it, because it seems to be heavy on that back part. And go ahead and simulate. And it's heavy either way. It's heavy either way. Anyways, what that simulate physics does is it basically simulates the object, physicalized object, simulates it, and then when the object stops moving, it basically sets that as a new position. So it's a way of getting accurately placed objects using physics. It's just pretty damn cool. I thought that was cool. It's the first engine I've seen that actually had that feature in it. It is. I mean, if you have objects that you want to place, you know, that you really have to rotate, scale, move, or whatever to get it placed exactly, a more accurate way to do it is just take that object, physically simulate it, and it'll physicalize itself and do whatever it needs to. And then when it stops moving, it'll save that as a new position. It's just pretty damn cool, in my opinion. So let's go ahead. I'm looking here. I found the problem. If you're looking here, look how big this wheel is here, how small that wheel is here. I mean, how big that wheel is, how small that is. Apparently in 3D Studio Max, I fucked up. It looks fine. It does. But apparently it's not fine. So let me just reset these xforms, individually. So go ahead and reset xforms, reset selected. Okay. Select this one. Reset selected. Select this, reset selected, select this, reset selected, select this, reset selected. Set everything. Collapse. Multiple objects. Let me go into the front view. Okay, these are the same height. Let's go to the left view. Okay, these are the same height. These are the same height. Go into the perspective view. And zoom all accent selected. Okay, so let me just make sure everything's at 0, 0, 0. My car. Okay, that's at 0, 0, 0. Body. 0, 0, 0. Okay. So let me just take this this into here, select my car, go ahead to export. I'd selected export nodes and go ahead and re-export. Now go back into Cryengine. I don't know what the hell happened here. Look at that. It's crazy. Go ahead and delete it. Control Z. And that looks like everything is fine. Is it really? I don't know, but let's check. Reload scripts. AI, generate all AI. And then Control G to jump in game. What do you know? Pop out the tires. They're still there because you don't have a damaged asset, a damaged model. The tires are still there. Physically, you will bump into them and stuff, but they just disappear render-wise. Let's go ahead and throw a grenade at it. See how it bounced because the wheels were still there. Let's go ahead, push F to get in, and if you see, yay! If you see the helper, the sit position helper, my first time getting it to work, that's awesome. Usually when I try something for the first time, it does not work. But there you go. My person is sitting exactly where he's supposed to be. I'm using W to move around. This vehicle has a lot of force. You can go ahead and drive it around. Ooh. Shit. F to get out. Ugh. I made these here. Procedural destruction. Alright, that's how you get a vehicle into Cryengine. For further optimization, for a more graphical user interface version, once you've created a simple setup, you're able to actually use a graphical user interface to actually modify, so you don't have to keep going to 3D Studio Max and changing your settings, or the XML file. This graphical user interface, which is called the vehicle editor, edits that XML file once it's already there with the parameters you can change on the fly. So let me just show you something real quick. Oh shit, what the fuck just happened? Oh, well, now I can actually sit there and show you, show you what I'm talking about with physically simulated, because the vehicle is fine. So let me show you. I am on a hill, and I'd have to rotate and stuff like that to get it to work. So let me just simulate physics on selected objects. There you go. Because the suspension is incredible, you saw the vehicle did something like that because of the suspension. You can tighten up that suspension through the vehicle editor and stuff like that. Boom. Suspension is really loose, that's why it's, doing that, but that's how you do it. So let's go ahead. I'm going to make a copy of my vehicle XML script, which is my car XML, because I have had instances twice which pissed me the fuck off. Is I went and created custom AI, right? And I did that through all, XML scripting, not using, the I don't know, the behavior selective tree editor, the graphic user interface. So when I actually found out that I could do that, I was like, yay. And then I went into it, and when I started to edit and saved it, it deleted my whole XML. So I was really pissed off. I did a lot of freaking work on that, and it went ahead and deleted it. So when you used it, so what I do is, before I use any sort of visual editor, I save a backup of it in a different directory where it can't touch it. So let's go ahead, open Notepad++. I'm going to take my car, and I'm just going to save it as the same thing, but I'm just going to save it to my desktop in case anything happens. I'm going to go to Tools, View, Open View Pane. First of all, I want to show you something so you can see the difference. Let me just get into the vehicle here, and let me go straight. You can see that this is the default speed with the Humvee. The default speed with the Humvee. And I'm going to just increase the speed so you can see you can do that visually. So go with View, Open View Pane, Vehicle Editor. Once that's done, make sure your vehicle selected, and then Open Selected. Here we go. Structure. As you can see, my car, this is what we had as a helper, and if you can see here, now let's see, let's go to, this is the Structure tab. Passenger 1, 2, 3, these here, as you can see, we didn't make these in 3D Studio Max, but since they're referenced in scripts, you could change these if you wanted to by clicking on it and then, you know, changing the component name and stuff like that. You can display components, wheels. I'm going to display everything. Wheel 1, wheel 2, wheel 3, wheel 4, you can see we have axles, density, damping, driving, true. Max friction, minimum friction. I mean, you can just go ahead and you can customize a lot of the stuff in here. You can customize brake lights, what helper it's using, type, red, white. That's pre-scripted, these options here. You can customize those. Mass box. Mass box is the overall. It's the overall physics of the entire car as a whole, not the wheels alone, not the wheels, you know, alone, not the thing alone. It's overall. It's the mass box is something that is the whole. It physicalizes the object as a whole. Physicalizes the objects as a whole. When parts are destroyed and come off, then it will take the individual parts, physics and stuff like that. But as a whole, everything's intact. It uses this mass box, and that's referenced in script. If you look in that XML script, you'll see that there's a mass box and a bunch of these parameters. Disable physics, disable collision, is hidden, you know, different stuff like that. Mass box, you can define the size, driving offset, different stuff like that. Passengers, this is like a visual editor. So, but what I really wanted, sit position, wheels, these are our helpers. What I want to look for is movement. Let's go to the movement tab now. That was just the structure. Movement. This is an arcade wheeled vehicle. It's just you have realistic vehicles you can create with have a lot of different more parameters, and you have to do that through script. Currently, I only know how to use the arcade wheeled vehicle, but there are some really realistic simulations going on if you use other type of different types of wheeled vehicles. Not like boats and planes, but I'm talking like vehicles as in like they have different simulations for the different types that you are simulating. Right now we're simulating an arcade wheeled, and it doesn't have as much parameters as some of the other ones, but it is easiest to set up in my opinion. So we have steer speed. How fast do you turn? Steer speed minimum. Basically it chooses between the minimum and the max to find a variation of speeds, turning exactly the same. Handling, friction, power. I mean, you have acceleration, you have deceleration, all that kind of stuff right there. Physics pushable. This allows you to push your object. If you're just going, whether the vehicle is pushable by players, to nudge it a little bit, you can set that to true. But again, we're on the movement tab. Let's just take off arcade, minimize arcade wheeled. And these are the parameters. Let's go into handling. Let's go into power. Acceleration, how fast? Okay, first of all, let's just find top speed. Top speed is 22. This is 22 kilometers per hour. I think it's measured in kilometers. So 22 kilometers per hour. Acceleration is how fast does a car reach that top speed of 22 miles per hour. So basically, if this acceleration was extremely high, once you push the, once you accelerate, push the go button, it's going to be immediately already at 22 miles an hour. So let's just go ahead and leave that at default 14. Deceleration is how if the current speed you're at currently, when you hit the brakes, how fast does it reach zero? It's the opposite of acceleration. How reverse speed is going backwards when you back up. How fast? What's the maximum speed you want to go by going backwards? In real life, most cars can go forward a lot faster than they can go backwards. So as you can see, reverse speed is 6 and top speed is that. So we're going to increase this top speed to 150 just to make this, top speed of 150. That's weird. All right, let's just, apparently it clamps it at 100, which is weird because I have set this a lot higher than that before. So let's set this top speed at 100, that's fine. Reverse speed, just do 20. Acceleration, deceleration, we're going to put deceleration to 14, exactly the same. There we go. Now that we modified that, let's just go ahead and click save. Again, these are just different parameters that you can tweak. I'm not sure on every single parameter, but you can figure that out on your own. And in the future, I will do more tutorials as I learn about how to do this. Let's go ahead, make sure after we saved it, we reload our scripts, and then go to Tools, Reload Geometry, and then go ahead and Control G to get in game, F to get in, and let's see how fast this goes. Whoops, I gotta get on stable terrain, hold on. Shit. I'm trying to get on stable terrain here. Oh shit. Alright, little buddy, come with me. Oh, there is something that reason why it's doing what it did, like flip over. There is a reason for that. View, open view pane. Let's go back to the vehicle editor. Remember I told you Massbox is the physical simulation overall. So let's go into structure. Make sure everything's enabled. There we go. Mass box. And in the mass box, you have the mass. Mass parameter. Right here. Let's just increase this to like 30,000. Go ahead and save it. Under here, body, which is the chassis, you can see here that there's a damage max. What's the maximum damage you can take before it goes into the broken model? and stiffness. This is how you can set the suspension. Let's go ahead and save it. Make sure we go to Tools, Reload Scripts. Take our object, delete it, Control Z to bring it back again. Shit, did it again. Alright, little buddy. You are coming over here. I'm trying to show you the speed difference by editing it in the vehicle editor, and that they do take place in the engine. You know what? Go to view. This is bugging me. I'm sorry, guys, but this is really bugging me. That fucking vehicle flipping over. Vehicle editor. Open selected, and I'm going to go to the movement here. Not movement, structure. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the wheels, and I am going to increase the stiffness. I don't know what a good number is, but I'm going to choose 50. And then same for this. $50. All the wheels. You can set different, suspension for the wheels, but Tools, Reload Scripts, AI, Generate AI. Go ahead, delete this, bring it back. I'm going to just do this again here. And then I'm going to just simulate physics. You've got to be fucking kidding me. Sorry guys, but actually by me doing this, it'll help you debug any problems that you have with your vehicle. So this actually is a good learning experience here. Yeah, I'll read it after, babe. I'm gonna set the suspension length to 1, and length max needs to be bigger than suspension, so I'm gonna put 1.5. I don't know if this is gonna make a difference. If not, I'm just gonna 1.5 length max suspension length. If not, I really don't know what to tell you. My other vehicle didn't do that. It could be that the wheels are just way out of proportion, and it could also be that the wheels are just too high up onto the vehicle, as the wheels should have been lowered more. But the scripting is correct. That's would be how you do it. So 1.5. I'm just going through all these wheels to do this. No, not right now, baby. I appreciate you asking. I also probably should have just restarted the editor. That could be a problem, that some changes don't take effect until the editor is restarted. That was even worse. Vehicle editor. Yeah, I didn't run out of audio. I was just quiet. So open selected. Mass box. Hold on a second. Hold on. Let me just. Just reset the physics on it so it goes back to normal, and that's this button right here. Look at that mass box. It could be that the mass is all at the top and not at the bottom. Hopefully this is the issue, because it would make it extremely top heavy. Oh, that's cool. I can edit the position based on that. That is really cool. I'm going to turn off the snapping here, and I'm going to bring that forward a little bit. And bring it down just a little bit. A little more, so it's more evenly distributed. And let's see. Good. Let's go ahead and save. Bring the suspension down back to what it was. Suspension length 0.25. 0.4. Wheel 2. 0.4. 0.25, .25, 0.4, 0.4. This is what it was for default. Yeah, 0.25. Click on it. I'm gonna save. Save. Let me just re-click on my mask box to see if okay. Size. Size you can do as well. X, Y, and Z. You can scale it. I'm assuming you can just scale it from here as well to make it smaller if you need to. I think that's what the issue was. Hopefully, tools, reload scripts, and that's weird. I never had to do it before. Probably because my other vehicle is a little bit taller than this. Reload scripts, AI, generate all AI, and let me just go ahead and simulate physics on it. Select my object and simulate physics. Nope, that's also not the issue. It's good to change that mask box size though, but it really makes me think it's my suspension. It really wants to make me think it's a suspension. So let me go to the vehicle editor again and go into open selected, go into structure, take my wheels, components, let's go to wheels here. And you can change the mass as well. But, bring the suspension length to like 0.1 and 0.11. And stiffness to 100. Let's go to wheel 2. 0.11. 0.1. All the way to 100. Wheel 2. Bring it to 100. 0.1. 1. 0.1. Bring this to 100. You guys are welcome to stop. I know this is kind of a pain sitting here just not really learning anything. Well, maybe you are, but you guys are welcome to end the video. I'm not going to be doing anything else really besides debugging this, because I do want to show you that editing in the vehicle editor does allow you to visually modify. So 0.1, 0.11. Right now this is a four-wheeled vehicle, four-wheel drive, because driving is true. That's the next parameter I'm going to change to see if it fixes it. I got to change it and delete, Control Z to bring it back in, reset the physics, tools, reload scripts, AI, generate all AI. Let me jump back in. Did you see that? It just went totally bazonkers. It went backwards like that. That's crazy. So I have an idea. I do have an idea. So let's go here into view, open view pane, vehicle editor, open selected, make sure that we see components. Mask box, and let's just edit this mask box. And again, reset physics on it. Make sure we have mask box. So yeah, I totally don't understand this whatsoever. Let's go to the wheels. Wheel 1, it want driving to true. Wheel 2, wheel 1 and 2. Wheel 1 and 2 take off driving. Wheel 3 and 4 leave driving on. Go ahead and save. Tools, reload scripts. I'm gonna go ahead and yes, I want to save changes. I'm just gonna reload it back up. Yeah, it's fucking pissing me off. But yeah, I don't know what to do about that. All I know is it's not supposed to be doing that. My other vehicle doesn't do it, neither should this. But that's how you get it drivable. Can't drive it if it's doing shit like that, but you got the basic process. There you go. Alright guys, thank you for sticking through me with this tutorial. I know at the end it got really kind of long and meaningless. Um, but everything should be all fine. You do know how to do that now, and I'm like I said, I'm still working on something I do want to show you. I'm still working on the selection system. You might be interested. Before I didn't have the selecting; it only moved what you defined as movable. But holy shit, that is insane. That is crazy. That could have been why my level was giving me such issues. Oh yeah, I remember. Okay, so what I'm gonna do here, man, my own, custom entity there. But what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna go to flow graph because I have these currently disabled. I'm just gonna re-enable these. Before you saw my test enemy, the selecting people was just very, very small. Now it's actually grown so that I'm able to select anyone. It's not a predefined person. It just selects whoever I am, actually left clicking on, and then when I right click, it sends them there. I've also implemented going in and selecting multiple groups and moving them at one time. Not much of the player camera changed. So this is here now, as you can see, but it's fine because I wanted to be first person while I was doing some other things. But I'll left click on this guy, left click, and then I'll right click for him to go up there, and he goes to that section. I'll left click on this guy, whoops, left click on that guy, and you're going to go over here, and oops, over here, and then go up there. And you're going to left click on this guy. Oops, he's moving right away. This is error in my script, I guess, but let me left click on this guy, tell him to go over here, and let me left click on this guy and tell him to go over here. And let me just click on all those guys, and whoops, let me just tools, reload scripts, and let me just select everyone and have them go. You can see everybody follows, bam, bam. That's selecting multiple. Let me just select this guy. Hey. Whatever. But yeah, like I said, I got multiple. You can select and then have all of them go. Or you can select individually. Pretty cool, I thought. Alright, thank you guys very much. Much appreciated.